Episode 1, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
Welcome everybody to the premiere episode of Tech Specs here at Nerdvana. In this episode I'm going to talk about the newest game in the Legend of Zelda series, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild got mainstream exposure at E3 when Reggie showed us the official game trailer for the game and we all got a glimpse into Anoma's newest creation. Now although there's still a lot of mystery surrounding this game, I'm going to do my best to analyze both the official game trailer and the little bit of game footage I was able to pull from E3. So let's waste no more time and let's jump right into it.
Let's begin with the trailer for Breath of the Wild. First we hear a voice that says,
"Open your eyes."
We assume this voice is speaking to Link, and then that assumption can be confirmed on the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Wiki page. Right here where I have highlighted, it reads, "Set in Hyrule, 100 years after the slumber of amnesiac protagonist Link, the story involves his awakening to a mysterious voice as he follows its direction and embarks on a quest to defeat the Calamity Ganon." Now let's think about this for a second. Link has been in a deep sleep for a century before being wakened to go on an adventure to defeat Ganon. So right there we know that Ganon will be making a return as the main antagonist, and once again Hyrule will be the main focal point of this game that connects every other place. Sounds like the basis of most Zelda games. Nothing different there. But who is this mysterious voice speaking to Link? It is obviously a female voice. Can it be the voice of Fi from Skyward Sword? It sounded more profound though than Fi's voice did, and I don't see Fi being in this game because it was confirmed in an interview that Link will have no companions in this newest game, so that also rules out the chance of Midna returning. Perhaps it is the voice of our beloved Princess Zelda herself. I think that would be the safest bet at this point, but it is only speculation. Another thing worth mentioning is the voice itself. Hearing a character speak clearly as opposed to the usual dialogue we have grown accustomed to in Legend of Zelda games is indication that there is voice acting for the first time in Breath of the Wild, one of the many changes to the conventional Zelda title that Anuma has promised us. Almost 20 seconds into the trailer, we see this creature walking in the distance. Looking closely, it appears as if this creature is a giant skeleton, striking a very close resemblance to the giant skeleton of Ikana Canyon from Majora's Mask. So does that mean Ikana Canyon will be a location in this game? We know Breath of the Wild will feature the largest map in the history of the Legend of Zelda series, so it is possible that Nintendo included some familiar areas in this game such as the Ikana Canyon from Majora's Mask. I love all of the wildlife in this game. It's nothing new to see animals in a Zelda game, but I cannot recall the wildlife being this prominent before. Then let's pause here for a moment. This area with all of the dirt and rock and the wooden balconies hanging high above looks a lot like the Kakariko village from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And we know this game is set 100 years in the future, but what part of the Zelda timeline this game falls into is a mystery. This area could be Kakariko Village before it became a village, but once again, this is just speculation. I like how there is weather in this game, something we have not seen a lot of in a Zelda game unless Link played the Song of Storms, which I hope returns in this game. I want to see the return of songs that Link can learn to play on this instrument, whatever it may be. And I'm not talking about how you learn music in Skyward Sword. I hated that because you didn't actually get to play the songs whenever you wanted, but only at the opportune time it was required. I want to see return the ability to pick up your instrument and perform songs whenever, which would have special powers, much like we saw in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Wind Waker. With Breath of the Wild having as big of a world as it has, warp songs would be really useful and should make a comeback. However, we already learned that Link can place markers, beams of light, at different locations that he has already visited in order to fast travel between these markers, so that almost entirely makes my idea of warp songs returning completely obsolete. Right here, Link leaps off of a cliff using the sail cloth he received from Zelda in Skyward Sword to slow his descent down to the ground. Also, the shield on his back looks just like the bandage shield from the same game with some minor differences. For instance, both shields are round, but the bandage shield has a different design on it than this shield we see here. But the design on the bandage shield can be seen earlier in the trailer right here. Breath of the Wild is starting to look more and more like it takes place 100 years after Skyward Sword. The horse Link is riding seems to be a wild horse he wrangled out in a field and not Epona. No word as of if Epona will be Link's trusty steed this time around. Does this scene right here with Link riding a horse across this bridge look familiar to anyone? For me, it looks like it was pulled straight out of the gameplay for Twilight Princess. This bridge definitely appears to be the Bridge of Eldin. You can even see Lake Hylia down below. Something I find interesting about Breath of the Wild is how Link can now scale any surface. In past Zelda titles, Link could climb specific textures. If there was vines or some foliage on a wall, it indicated that Link could use it to climb. Or if there were rocks going up on a wall, a ladder, or some bars, Link could grab on and then he could climb those too. But in Breath of the Wild, it doesn't matter the texture. Link can now climb anything and everything, and I find that pretty cool. Link now has an axe and can chop down trees, giving a bit of a lumberjack skill to our hero, never before seen, which we see here become a useful skill as it allows him to create a makeshift bridge to get on the other side of this trench. Link can make his own fire to burn grass, which I can see being a great tactic to fend off wildlife and monsters, but it is a bit difficult to see exactly how Link is making this fire. Could the fire rod be returning as a weapon, or is Link simply shooting fire arrows at the grass? I can't really tell. Right here is one of the biggest new additions to the Zelda universe. We see Link with a large pot that looks more like a witch's cauldron sitting atop a campfire, and Link appears to be cooking. Now, there has never been a cooking or crafting mechanic in a Zelda game. The closest we came to this was in Skyward Sword, when you could collect the right materials and bring them to the bazaar and Skyloft to upgrade your shields, items, or weapons. Now Link can apparently cook food using the ingredients he forages for, and then can consume the food to replenish hearts and learn new recipes throughout his adventure. This was all confirmed in one of the demos Nintendo allowed us to play at E3. Before now, Link always replenished his heart meter using hearts he would collect in various means or by drinking red potion or Lon Lon milk, so I don't know how I feel about this drastic change, but it could be pretty awesome. With Link being able to cook, collect recipes, forage for items, and chop down trees, Breath of the Wild sort of feels like a Legend of Zelda game combined with another popular Nintendo game, Harvest Moon. I like it. Wow, nice. You gotta love that, bowling for bokoblins. Okay, stop right here. This contraption on Link's hip is a tablet. Yeah, Link gets a piece of modern, sophisticated technology. It is called a Sheikah Slate, and it is what Link will find his map and manage his quests and inventory on. This way, everything is stored inside the Sheikah Slate, leaving the HUD uncluttered. Great idea, Nintendo. This is pretty neat. Look at a new item Link gets that looks like a magnet that can lift objects. I assume metal, unless it's a magical magnet. And drop them on a horde of bokoblins. Link is wielding a spear, a new weapon to his arsenal. Now Link won't be limited to swords, bows, boomerangs, bombs, bomb chews, powder kegs, Deku nuts, Deku sticks. Okay, so Link has had a lot of weapons over his many adventures. So why not a spear, right? Familiar enemies are back. We have been seeing lots of bokoblins, and now we see choo-choos making a return. It is incredible the size of this world in Breath of the Wild. From the vast forest that holds Hyrule to the sandy desert to the frigid mountainous areas, this game is massive and the art is breathtaking. This cave that Link is entering appears as if it could be one of the 100 or so shrines that are scattered throughout this game, which are similar to temples but not quite. Here Link can learn new skills and raise his stats. Yet there's more of an RPG feel to the Zelda game, with Link now having stats, his weapons, clothing, and shields having stats, and even the enemies having stats. There's even a temperature gauge, and if Link wants to survive in the cold climate of the mountains, then he will have to dress accordingly, or he will perish. Nintendo really has pulled out all of the stops for this Legend of Zelda game. Here we see Link placing something inside this pillar that opens the door to this shrine. Maybe Link will have to find stones to enter certain shrines throughout the game. Let's hope that not all 100 are locked, but I think those that are will hold the best skills. I mean, it makes sense. And then we get to the end of the trailer and we get the first look at that legendary blade, the Master Sword, hidden away in a forest much like in A Link to the Past and Twilight Princess. A closer look at the blade itself, both here and in the logo, reveals just how bad a shape the Master Sword is in. it is rusted, dinged up, and dirty. This leads me to believe that perhaps you will retrieve the Master Sword early on in your adventure, but must restore its power to its full capacity in order to defeat Ganon. Something similar to Skyward Sword or Wind Waker. With this game being non-linear, you will probably be able to take on Ganon at any time you desire, but without the restored Master Sword, you will most likely perish. What an incredible presentation. Lots to take in and study, and the music too was phenomenal. Some people say that the music helps make a game, and the Legend of Zelda series has always had an amazing soundtrack. The soundtrack played in this trailer sounds somewhat similar to Fi's theme from Skyward Sword in my opinion. Maybe there will be some mention of Fi in this game when trying to restore the power to the Master Sword. That would tie Breath of the Wild to other games in the series and establish its place in the Zelda timeline. My theory is it takes place sometime after Wind Waker, with the Master Sword being rusted as if it was at the bottom of the ocean when Hyrule was flooded. Plus, although we don't see them in the trailer, the Koroks made some appearances in the demo played at E3. Koroks were the Deku Leaf tribe in Wind Waker, adding more evidence that this game takes place sometime around the time of Wind Waker. I hope Makar is in this game, I love that little guy. Now that we saw the official trailer for Breath of the Wild, let's get into some actual gameplay. For the gameplay footage, I'm using a direct feed from E3 courtesy of GameXplain. The first thing I noticed is the lack of music. Normally there will always be music playing in a Zelda game no matter where you are at. Each area will have its own unique music, but the music was stripped and replaced with the natural sounds of nature such as chirping birds. I'm sure there will be music in certain parts of the game, but I actually like the calm and peaceful sounds of nature that Nintendo decided to go with. Link can now jump in this game, which is another new element. Before, Link could only jump across gaps, but now he can simply jump whenever you instruct him to do so with a push of a button. The usual Legend of Zelda jingles are there when you pick up items, so Link picked up a torch, which you can catch on fire much like the Deku Stick from previous games. Now I bet these torches are how you set things on fire. That makes sense. This is my first time seeing actual gameplay for Breath of the Wild, so some of the things I see might actually bring light to my analysis of the trailer I showed earlier. You can hunt wildlife now in order to acquire food. Two hearty steaks. That should replenish some health. You've never been able to hunt before in a Zelda game. I'm going to enjoy this. Oh look, the stamina gauge from Skyward Sword has reared its ugly head again. I hated having stamina. Of all the things to put in Breath of the Wild, why did Nintendo have to bring back the stamina gauge? I hated this. I want to be able to sprint without getting winded every 5 seconds. Picking up some acorns. Wonder if these will be like Deku nuts or if they are crafting materials. Let's skip ahead some. We are in a different spot of Hyrule and Link ventures inside this cave and oh look, a treasure chest, I wonder what's inside. It's the fire rod, so I was right, it is an item in this game. I was just speculating earlier, but how awesome is that? So right here, Link is looking around through a scope and placing pins or markers, which is what I was talking about earlier in my analysis of the trailer. These allow Link to fast travel between areas to make traveling from location to location faster. Ocarina of Time had a similar mechanic with warp songs. Oh my god, look at the size of this map, it's huge! I cannot wait to explore everywhere. This should have been called The Legend of Zelda Breath of Skyrim. I mean seriously. This feature right here I really like. We see Link running into an area that boasts a colder climate and wearing the clothes he is currently equipped with will cause him to freeze, thus losing health, as we see start to happen here. Link even shivers and you can see his warm breath in the cold air. This is similar to how Link had to wear a Goron tunic to withstand the heat of the Death Mountain crater in Ocarina of Time. Here we see Link using the magnet item once again to lift a large piece of metal and place it in the river to form a bridge. This is similar to how he'd use Midna to lift large objects using her power in Twilight Princess. Lots of comparisons to other games in Breath of the Wild. We put on some warmer clothing and eat some food to regain some hearts. Let's fast forward a bit. Link comes across a shrine in the mountains. The Shrine Ke Nimut. May have totally butchered that name. but it doesn't appear that Link places anything onto the pedestal. Looks like he just presses a button to activate the elevator, bringing him down into the shrine. So, that is what Link places on the pedestal, the Sheikah Slate. It is updated with a new skill, Cryonis, which allows Link to create ice pillars from a water's surface. I believe this is what we saw in the trailer earlier. This new ability, or skill I should say, acts much the same way as firing an ice arrow into the water would in previous Zelda games, except more magical. Eventually we make our way through the shrine by using our newly acquired skill, and we shatter the barrier, causing some sort of Sheikah Guardian, I believe. And we are given a Spirit Orb for our courage. Pretty cool. Now inside the shrine we are ambushed by some Stoffos, but he makes quick work of them. What do we have here? A circle of rocks? If I remember anything from past Zelda games, a circle of rocks usually means something is hidden inside. Placing a bomb didn't do anything but blow us up. Even the bombs seem magical in this game. Now that we broke down the trailer to Breath of the Wild and picked apart a half hour of gameplay, let's compile a summary of the good and the bad of Nintendo's newest game in the Legend of Zelda series. First, the good. This is the one big element of Breath of the Wild that I really love. I love games like Skyrim, so it is exciting to see Nintendo incorporate that huge open world into a Zelda game. This pro goes hand in hand with the next pro on this list, non-linear gameplay. Not since the very first Zelda game for NES have we been able to go wherever we want and tackle dungeons in any order. A mechanic touched upon in Skyward Sword but improved upon in Breath of the Wild. Now Link can use materials he gathers to create weapons, clothing, and armor, and gain recipes to cook food to replenish his health. Link's weapons and armor all possess stats that will wear down over time, breaking, and enemies all have health meters. This gives a more RPG feel to the game. From hang gliding, tree cutting, cooking, hunting, tree climbing, to setting controlled fires, Breath of the Wild showcases many new game mechanics never before seen in a Zelda game. Now let's list the bad. You know how I feel about this, so I don't have to explain myself again. The Legend of Zelda has always been a story-driven game, but in Breath of the Wild, the story seems to be taking a back seat to the actual free roam element. We don't see much as far as story goes from the gameplay footage from E3, but Reggie did mention that the focus at E3 was going to be the small fraction of Hyrule that was going to be playable, and that we will learn more of the story as time goes by, so we can only hope there is more of a story element that we haven't seen yet. Now this has not been confirmed, but we never see nor hear anything about Link possessing his legendary green tunic in Breath of the Wild, leading many fans to believe it won't be in the game. However, with the new ability to acquire gear including outfits with different stats and abilities, I can only speculate that the hero's garb will be acquired late into the game since it would undoubtedly have the best stats. So there you have it. I have analyzed The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild from the game trailer to 30 minutes of gameplay and told you how I feel about the game and my pros and cons. So now feel free to tell me your thoughts on the newest Legend of Zelda adventure in the comment section below. There is so much we don't know about this game as it is still a year off from being released, so some questions I had about this game that I talked about may be answered as time goes by. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild will be released sometime in 2017, so be sure to pre-order your copy and pick up a Wolf Link amiibo as you can incorporate Wolf Link into the game. Another cool feature I should mention. That's it for this episode of Tech Specs. Leave a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe to keep up with future episodes as well as my other series on the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.